And so I think just by living by example, then all of a sudden they realize like they can't walk all over you. You know, if they hit on you and you can call them out for being a dick, like then all of a sudden they're just like, okay, you know, she's not going to take this from me. And so, you know, time and again that would come up. And
I carry you like I carry my pack, even if I don't come back.
What's up, Warriors? I'm Mindy Minard. I'm the host of the new Dynamic Warriors podcast. And today we are visiting with Tami McVay. She is a rock star. So welcome to our show. You're my first official guest.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited to have you here. So tell me a little bit about you. I know that you are an ex-Marine or a veteran Marine. I don't know how we're supposed to put that. You're a life coach.
Yeah, so I'm a Marine, always a Marine.
Right.
So I'm a business and lifestyle strategist, and I help people just tap into this more powerful side to themselves. It's something that, you know, I got from the Marine Corps, and it's really just changed the trajectory of my life because of that. So I know a lot of people struggle with, you know, getting into that powerful side to themselves so they can start making big things happen.
I think that's really important, and it's huge because I think that we struggle with self-doubt. So how do you encourage people, or what do you do to help people overcome that as far as life coaching? I mean, you can't really teach people how to, well, I guess you can teach people how to overcome that fear, because success, I feel like, is kind of a scary thing for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that no matter what level you're at or what you have going on, like self-doubt, you know, strikes all of us at some point, you know, whether it's a relationship or it's a business move or whatever. So it's just constantly reminding yourself all these tools and skills and things that you've built along the way that you kind of forget about, that you take for granted. And so just to have that, so when all of a sudden you just start to question yourself, you're like, oh yeah, I got this. I did this, so I can do this.
Right.
And so it's really just building them up. I think a lot of people feel arrogant when they start to talk about all these ways that they're great. And so even if you just remind them of that and they have it in their head, so then they can start making those moves. I think that that's really where that gift is, because people are afraid of that power.
Well, and I think a lot of people, when you say success, like the first thing I always used to think of was money. Mm-hmm. And it's so much deeper than that. Like you said, there are skills and relationships and things that happen along the way in our lives that we really lose sight of. So that's super cool that you can help people find that. I'm going to have to call you and have you help me refine.
Well, so success, like that's a great topic, just because it really is different for everybody. Like, you know, the stay-at-home mom, success for her is so different from somebody like me that's single and no kids. And so to be able to define what that looks like for you, and then to be able to drive and set goals or start creating your life in that way based on what's really important to you, and stop worrying about what everybody else is doing.
Right. Yeah, that's hard, because we get caught up in the success of our friends and then comparing our lifestyle and just knowing I too am single and I don't have any children, and I look at all my friends around and they're all, you know, they have their families and they're successful in their jobs, and I'm, you know, just look at myself and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm barely restarting all those things. So it's nice to, you know, see other people's changes in their lives and how they grow from that. So a Marine,
Yes.
in the 80s, yeah?
Late 80s. So I was in during Desert Storm, and it was a very different time from, you know, even the Iraq and Afghanistan, and now like it's just evolved so much. And so it was really interesting being at that part of history for especially women in the Marine Corps. So yeah, I loved it. And I enlisted when I was 17, and I'm so grateful that I started at such a young age, because it shaped me as an adult, and that I'll try anything. I'm not going to complain about it. I may not like it, but I'll be like, okay, phew, glad that's over with. And so it was such a gift, and I took that for granted. But as I get older, I recognize like what a real gift that was.
Right. And I think it's so much more popular and common now that younger women and men are enlisting, and it's not as, you know, it was such a scary thing and nobody talked about it. And women in the military the amount of women in the military was so low. I mean, I know that I heard in one interview you said that there was, when you enlisted, it was 200 men to every one woman. And like, for me, that'd be great for like a dating scene, you know, but to be in a competition where it's like, I have to prove myself to these men, right? It's not this is kind of cool. So how did you, was there ever a time that you, I mean, I'm assuming you had to prove yourself and you had to really kind of fight for you to be heard and seen, being 1 versus 200?
In a lot of ways, yes. Being 200 men to every woman, like I stood out like a sore thumb. So being seen was not a problem. Like I've run across guys, then they're like, "Oh, I remember you from 29 Palms." Like, I have no clue who you are, So, but it really was commanding that respect. And when you're 19 years old, a girl, regardless of the Marine Corps, like it's really difficult to learn how to do that. And so I think just by living by example, then all of a sudden they realize like they can't walk all over you. If they hit on you and you can call them out for being a dick, like then all of a sudden they're just like, okay, she's not going to take this from me. And so, time and again that would come up. And then after a while, like the guys around you really get to know you, and then they're brothers and they'll protect you from those other guys. So it really is interesting.
That's super great that you got to develop those friendships and brotherhoods. And because I feel like there's a lot of chauvinistic side that comes out from men, or especially back then, it was probably super hard for you. So you also do your life coaching. How does that, I know that the military kind of formed you into being able to have all this structure and success in your life. So what made you want to do that, and how did you transition from coming out? Did you go right into life coaching? Did you do something different in the corporate world?
No. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I was married to a Marine, and he got orders out to Colorado. And so that's what brought me out here. And I was really struggling finding work. I was going through this identity crisis. Like, if I'm not the coolest job in the world, a Marine, then what am I?
Right.
And I was really depressed. My marriage was falling apart. But I managed to get a job at an engineering firm, and I didn't have any computer experience other than doing my resume. But I started picking things up quickly. They were moving their corporate headquarters out, and so I ended up being there for 20 years. And so I had this really successful career in IT. But the real gift of being in Colorado is that I connected with friends who were adventurous. And I didn't grow up, I mean, yes, the Marine Corps was adventurous, but I didn't grow up traveling. I wasn't an athlete. And so, they're like, "Hey, we're going to go biking from Telluride to Moab. Do you want to go?" I'm like, "I didn't even want to bike." I'm like, "Sure, that sounds cool." And so over time, I kept doing these really cool things with friends, and it was opening my eyes to just what was possible, challenging myself in a different way. And I was so passionate about just that kind of lifestyle and health. And so all along the way, I was growing. And so when it came time to leave my corporate career, I was craving this, wanting to help people. And I could go to work and sit in my cubicle and write code all day and not talk to anybody, put on my music if I didn't want to. And I just felt like I was stifling like the best parts of me. And so I started to look into things. I was following Tony Robbins. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, how do they do what they do? And I just decided to go for it. So I just made a bold decision, like, I'm going to make this happen. And so I just quit my job. 20 years. They didn't see it coming, shocked everybody. But I knew that I had been training for this my entire career.
Yeah, because if anybody asked me to bike from Parker to Parker, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't buy a bike. That's so great. What drives you to continue coaching now?
So because of those adventures that I had done, and then now as a coach, I've watched different people and entrepreneurs that I work with struggling with that self-doubt. And I just went back to, like, I knew I wanted to do retreats as part of my business, but in my own head, I had my own struggles, thinking it was going to be this big undertaking. I wasn't ready. My business needed to be at a certain point. And then all of a sudden, I just had this epiphany, like, I've been doing it for years with friends, only now I'm just going to charge people to come with me. And so I just gave myself permission. And so to be able to help people tap into that confidence and that powerful side, doing things that they never thought they would do. Just like you said, you wouldn't ride from Parker to Parker.
Right.
But if all of a sudden somebody's like, "I've got you," no Marine left behind, so I use
Right.
that same motto in my retreats. Like, I don't care how difficult it is, like, I will get you through this. And so to be able to have people see this side of themselves and see that they're capable of these things, and then have these really great discussions along the way, it really is a powerful way to help someone.
So these retreats that you go on, you travel the world.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm getting ready to take a group to Portugal, and we're going to be biking along the coast. And so throughout the week, we'll ride about 150 miles, and none of the women going with me ride bikes. So
I need to sign up, apparently.
so it's one of those things, like, I hope it rains on us, because when you have to go from point A to point B, there is no other option, and you can be miserable, but when all of a sudden you do it, you're just like, wow. And so I really like being able to give that to people.
Right.
Yeah. And different retreats. I took a group to Belize. We went swimming with sharks. Went to Ireland. Went biking in Ireland. Tulum. So yeah, it's
You
great.
really are a real life badass. I want, even though we're close to the same age, I want to be you when I grow up, right?
Awesome.
So the company that I work for, they do coaching. I'm not sure if you're familiar with core coaching. It's a big, life coaching and business coaching. A lot of people that I work with are involved with that. And if they're not committed and they're not doing their homework and they're not doing all of these things, they even though they pay for this coaching, all this money every month and year, they can be kicked out of this life coaching. So can you kind of tell me your experience with that? And have you had people that have thought they were committed, but then when the raw truth and all the things that they needed to do to commit to being successful, have they kind of withdrawn from that?
Mm-hmm. So I've had a few cases like that where, when it's a company that's paying for the employee to do that, it sounds great in theory. You're like, oh, great, what a great perk, but they're not invested. And so they don't have any skin in the game. And so they can be enthusiastic in the beginning, but then all of a sudden they realize, like, nobody's really holding them accountable, that they kind of half-assed do it, and then they get half-assed results. So then they're not really like, oh my God, you're an amazing coach. And so it has been frustrating. And so as I talk to different people, I can spot immediately if that's what they're going to be like. And so I've turned people away because I know that they're either not ready yet, or the pain isn't great enough for them yet. And so, so that dynamic is really interesting. And I love that companies are really starting to see that power and benefit of coaching, but they have to recognize that too. And so to be able to find a way where that employee has some skin in the game.
Yeah. So with the coaching that we do, not that it's relevant or matters, but they do individually pay for it. They just get on board, and my boss he lives and dies by life coaching, and he is super committed and driven. And they're held accountable, and it's really cool to see that that's something that you do on an individual basis, because I feel like what they're doing is more for bigger corporations, and they're switching coaches every 6 months. And I just feel like I don't know what the commitment time is to see the success, but I feel like that's barely enough time to get to know somebody. So it's easier to kind of bail out, like, oh, I'm switching coaches in 6 months. I don't have to pay for the next year or 6 months of training because I didn't get along with that one coach. Where I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, with you, it's more a one-on-one. We develop a relationship, and if we click, then we work together until it doesn't work, right?
Somewhat. So one thing that I love about the retreats is they're a week long, but it's really in a total immersion. And so, like, when you think about, if you have even just dating, if all of a sudden you go on a date like once a week, it takes a while to develop that relationship. Whereas if all of a sudden you spend 24/7 for a full week, you really get to know someone. You can have those conversations. You can start to think about it. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, you can go sit by the beach with your journal and think, like, how does that sit in? And then you have a deeper conversation based on that first one. So that's another reason why I love the retreats, is for that total immersion. But those long-term relationships, my longest client right now has been 1.5 years, and it has been mind-blowing to watch her growth. But as a coach, you also don't want to create this dependent relationship. Like, I don't want somebody to rely on me for their motivation. Like, I want to, let's hit the problem, come up with the strategy, off you go, encourage you, boost you back up again, let you go fly a little bit, and then be like, oh, I had this challenge come up. And then we, hit the next problem, or as you get to the next level, like what's the next level, and keep growing. So that's just the way that I like to work, and it's a lot of fun.
That's great. You're like my personal trainer. Okay, here's the tools. Now go get on a stair stepper and call me when you're done. Okay. So tell me your idea of happiness or success. And in your life, if you were to walk out of this podcast and maybe be unfortunately hit by a car or die, would you feel that you were successful and happy in your life?
Absolutely. So my philosophy is like, I really try to look at life from a positive perspective. Like even when things are difficult, there's always a silver lining. And I think because I've always had that outlook, that it's helped keep me sane, and it helps me recover from things really quickly. So for me, that happiness is really making sure that I'm nurturing that positive side to myself, and being kind to other people. And so through that, and then just the way that I live my life, whether it's, for me, it's all about the experiences. Like even when I'm not doing my retreats and part of my business, like I like to do things that they're just cool. And I know that at the end of my day that I will feel like I've truly experienced life. Like I've saved lives, I've helped other people, I've served my country in more ways than one, and that if I go, that I have left some kind of positive legacy, that I have helped people. And if I'd be like, I'm one of those, I'll like slide into the grave like, whoo, that was a good time.
That's
and then
so
I'll be
great.
good. Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, actually, because you were talking about the whole coaching and all these things that you haven't done, like what does happiness and success look like for you, so that like the things that you would want to do to be satisfied with at the end of your days?
So for me, my entire life, I've kind of been, I'm a go-getter, but I've kind of fallen complacent to the things in my life, and been sometimes loyal to a fault, and stayed in places where I've been very uncomfortable and not happy. And after my experience with cancer, I just kept thinking there's something more I have to do. I have to broaden my horizons. And I've said, after I was cancer free, I'm going to travel. I'm going to do all these things that I've been so afraid to do, because life is too short, right? You don't get these experiences all the time. And we're always worried about, do I have the right amount of, do I have enough money? And I just felt like in my life, I wasn't doing enough. And so not to sound cheesy, but I'd been waiting and just hoping and praying that something would come to fruition, and something that would make me feel good. And then I got the call from Derek, and he did. He asked me to do this. And as silly as people would look at a podcast, it's interviewing people that have changed other people's lives and overcome so much. And it's something that I can feel like I'm truly a part of. And for me right now, I just want to take this dynamic warrior experience and make it as big as I can, and do everything in my life that I've put on hold, because it's just been, everything can be tomorrow, everything can wait. And it's just, I have this newfound happiness that life is just starting for me. So I don't have all the experiences in life, but I do hope to start creating all of those experiences. Like I said, I'm going to call you for coaching, and I'm going to go on your retreats, and I'm going to do all the fun things that you do, because you're truly, the things that you've done are such an inspiration to women and people in general. Like I can never imagine, when my family's military, my dad's in the military, and it was always such a scary thing for me. I never had the courage to do that. And so I think it's really cool, all the things that you've done. So I inspire to be like you.
Well, I think that's really important that you brought that up about fulfillment. I think so many people, they have good lives, but that fulfillment piece is missing, and they're afraid to like rock the boat. Oh, yeah. And I think a lot of fulfillment comes from making an impact to other people, and we all have that power. And it doesn't have to be like, I want to go start a charity. It could be something so simple as, just helping the old lady cross the street, and just doing those little things that make you feel good and make you feel like you matter, because we all want to feel like we matter.
Absolutely. And there's so many things that throughout our journeys that we don't understand, that we can make light of in other people's lives that haven't come to that. Like the 17-year-old that's considering enlisting in the military, in the Marines, can watch this and be empowered by you, or watch my interview that I had and be empowered to know that there are so many options out there and so many things in medicine and whatever that you can, there's so much that you can do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So fulfillment, we talk about that. And there's so many people out there that are suffering and wait until a major crisis happens in their lives, like a diagnosis or a back injury or something like that, to start taking care of themselves. And it's my understanding that you have started using a CBD, one of the Dynamic Warrior CBD oils, kind of as a preventative. Is that?
Yeah, so my whole life, like, I've been really just involved with health. I mean, growing up, my mom had emphysema, so it's always been something that I've just been proactive about, and, you know, paying attention to trends and what's going on. And so I've been fascinated by CBD, and so I loved when the Dynamic Warriors came out with theirs. And I get migraines. And if you've ever had a migraine, like, the pain is really intense at times. It's like having an ice pick in your temple. And so I take CBD, and it takes the edge off. It's kind of like if you put an ice pack on, like, a sprained ankle. And so it allows me to just relax a little bit and get some sleep. And so that has really helped me. I do want to be more proactive and, you know, start taking it consistently just to see if it will help with, you know, anti-inflammatory, just to see if it prevents my migraines altogether. But I haven't gotten there.
Well, that's helpful for me because I am not familiar with any CBD products. So after a reconstructive surgery, you deal with all these different side effects, and I'm postmenopausal now, or I'm perimenopausal. So, you know, I'm interested in trying. So I can't wait to try our products and really see how much that can help me, because it can be debilitating to have a migraine or even not be able to do your workout to the fullest because everything just hurts. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really, really awesome that we explain that this is a preventative measure. Don't wait until it's overcoming and you can't do anything to get past the pain, and then you're trying to follow up and catch up with the pain to kind of take these things and really take care of yourself.
Given that I deal with people and their mindset so much, like, I find that as people get older too, it's like, I have this aches and pain. Oh, I can't do this because this hurts. And when it's really, they have it in their head that I'm getting older and this is how it is that I'm older, and I will fight that until the day I die. So I think that these kind of products are really the direction that, you know, we all should be going. And everything's an experiment. Like, you don't know what's going to work for you, and even doctors don't know what's going to work for you. You have to learn to read your own body.
Right. Yeah. My parents are they swear by CBD, you know, rubs, and my mom was having hip problems. And so these products for her are super, you know, because I never thought, my parents, you know, I mean, CBD in the beginning, nobody knew anything about it, right? It's this taboo thing that, oh, it's drugs and everybody's, you know, and to see that it really did. And I kind of opened their eyes to, this is something that you need to try. This is something that could potentially help you. And you're not on these medications that are, you know, messing with your mind and doing all these other things.
Yeah, those are chemicals. This
right,
is a plant.
This is exactly. This is natural. Try it. And to see, you know, my mom especially, the difference that it's made in her life is something that I will definitely advocate for, because, you know, she tried it once and it changed her. So that's super great. That you're right, makes a difference. Well, Tami, thank you so much for being my first official guest. I had such a great time talking to you and learning about all of your experiences, and you are a walking, talking dynamic warrior. So thank you for being here. This is...
Oh, thank you.
Oh, dynamic warriors for life, girl.
Thank you.